Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining on this webinar. The conversation will be led in English for everybody to understand, as well for a speaker that is joining us from Malaysia. Thank you so much for being here, and welcome to the webinar Scholastic Labs regarding sales. So how to double your sales during COVID-19 and the pandemic. We're very happy to have you all with us and present. Please note that this call and this webinar will be recorded, so you'll be able to refer to the slides and the content here. While I have you, please everyone, prepare if you have a notepad with a pen, because we'll be doing a bit of work that Indran has prepared for us. We've also sent to you all by email a small workbook that you can reutilize and maybe hopefully redo these exercises with other people on the team. So we're just about ready to start. So my name is Tarek Shleifa. I'm a program manager at Flat Six Labs. Flat Six Labs is a VC network for startups. And so a lot of our startups during this crisis are actually facing challenges, either getting new customers or actually keeping existing customers during this kind of crisis. Very hard for them to navigate these waters. And so after hearing from all the portfolio startups across the region, a lot of them were asking, how do we keep and maintain sales, and how do we generate revenue as we also cut costs? And so we're very lucky to have on this call Mr. Indran, who is a sales expert, to say the least. But I'll let him introduce himself and kick it over to him. Please refrain from any questions. You can put in the comments either in YouTube or Facebook or on this comments, and we'll have the questions towards the end. Thank you, Indran. Take it away.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tarek, for the great introduction. And I really am excited to be with all of you guys. You guys are dialing in from all over the world, and it must be different time zones for you. So I appreciate your time and your effort, and I'm going to do my best to make this worth your while. For those of you who are not on mute, now's the time to go on mute, so we don't interrupt the others. Right. So let me just jump right in. Put in the chat right now, are you actually doing well in sales? If you're doing well in sales, if the coronavirus has actually made your sales better, please type in the chat right now, okay? Now, for the rest of you who have not improved your sales because of the coronavirus, you can stay on the call, because this is going to be something that will really help you benefit from that, okay? So I'm going to be answering a couple of questions, okay? In the next 60 minutes, in the next 40 minutes, actually, I'm going to be covering these questions, right? And these questions are actually more. Right. Now, the first one is that sales is the #1 skill today that seriously helps to pay the bills, okay? In any crisis, this is the #1 thing. And if you stay till the end, I'm actually going to give you access to my private sales coaching circle. And I'm going to cover one more thing. But before that, just give me a minute, because I need to... Can everyone hear me okay? Because I'm getting some interruptions. Can everyone hear okay? Okay, great. Perfect. Right. So let's move on. Okay, so what do I do? I'm a sales coach. I actually help companies grow sales. And here's my introduction. Now, I've been selling for a long time, and I've been selling it in many countries across the world. Okay, here are some of the examples of the stages I've spoken on, the newspapers I've been with, and the TV stations I've appeared on. Okay, so you'll see me in all this variety of different things. I help people to grow sales, to clarify their message, okay? Teach people how to monetize their products and services. These are some of my clients. Some of them are billion-dollar brands. Some of them are small startups, okay? The thing is, I've helped them to double, triple, and even 10x their sales. Here's an example from my LinkedIn where I increased the sales for GEMS Education based in Dubai. They are a $5 billion, 5B private group that focuses on education, right? So these are basically my successes. Okay, if you go to my website, you'll see these successes. But here is what people don't know about me. Okay, each of my successes was preceded by many failures. And if I want to sit here and talk to you about my failures, we can be here until next Tuesday. It won't be enough time. Okay, so I'm not going to focus on them all, but I'm going to focus on one which I think is quite relevant to you guys, and that is my failure during the 2008 global financial crisis. Now, I was in Australia at the time, and to cut a long story short, right, I was just left jobless suddenly, and I became unemployable during this time. And pretty soon, I found myself with a lot of debts. I sold all my assets, and I was about to lose my house even, and I was on the verge of suicide. And this is a horrible time for me. I wouldn't want to wish it on anyone. I didn't even have money for a cup of coffee, let alone paying the minimum balance on my credit card, which I'd already maxed out. And getting all these calls from creditors and the banks, it is a horrible, horrible feeling, right? It just made me want to end it all. And then I want to share with you that generally most people go through, in any crisis, they go through the shock, they go through denial, they go through anger, right? And then there's a point where they bounce back. Okay, they bounce back and they start taking ownership and they want to move forward. That did not happen with me. Okay, I actually went down further and further into a crisis, went into depression, contemplated suicide, right? So what should have taken me just 4 to 6 weeks took me 6 to 9 months. Okay, and that's what I want you guys to avoid. And that's one of the things which we will cover in a little while from here. Okay, so anyway, at the lowest point of my, in my darkest hour, right, an angel sort of appeared in my life. And it was actually in the form of this small financial planner in Australia, in Brisbane and the Gold Coast, who wanted to create a testimonial video for his website. Now, I've had some editing skills when I was just a tourist taking videos, right? But I'd never done professional videos before. But the thing is, when he asked me that question, can you do videos? I lied to him and I said, yes, I can do videos. I was so desperate to earn any bit of money I can. Anyway, long story short, I edited the videos and I posted on his website. And within a week, he had gone from nowhere to page 1 on Google, right? And I thought, wow, this is amazing, And I thought about it, like what actually happened? Well, at that time, Google had just bought YouTube, so they were optimizing their algorithms for video. But more importantly, right, that video did arouse some powerful emotions, and because it was about testimonials where there was death, there was suffering, there was a lot of emotional content in that video. So, and I also realized that while editing that video, I had unconsciously used a Japanese storytelling formula that I had discovered while designing games for my last employer at HSBC, right? So I learned that this is the same model that Nintendo uses that Nintendo used in their Super Mario Brothers game, right? It's the same model, and it's called Kisho Tenketsu. And I was really interesting. Now the guy paid me $700, which it helped to pay the bills, but it did not get me out of debt, right? I was in massive debt. But that was a life-changing moment for me, because I realized, that if I could tweak this model and actually start working better at it, I could replicate this success again and again. And that's exactly what I did. I tried that new thing with some other clients, and they found amazing success. And today, right, this model has earned a lot of money for me and my clients today. And it works particularly well within a crisis. And that's why I want to share that with you. And I will be covering that in the second part of today's session, okay? So from suicide to success, I could do it. And you guys don't have to go through it the same way I did, okay? You can do it the easy way I'm going to share with you. So are you guys excited to learn the secrets? Type yes in the chat so we can continue. Great, okay, let's move on then. So this is part one, where I'm going to talk about the top 7 mistakes, the biggest mistakes that startups are making right now, right this moment, in the coronavirus COVID crisis, okay? And if you're making those mistakes, you need to recognize it and change your behavior, right? The first mistake, right, is thinking that this problem is temporary. You know, you see startups, right? Startup founders in general, they are very optimistic people, and they're always very positive about life and very upbeat. Now is not the time for you to be upbeat and positive about the coronavirus crisis. Why? Because it is not something that's going to end very, very soon. Okay, it's going to have some effect on people's health, but the knock-on effect on the economies of the world, right, is going to be way, way, way longer. And if you look at some people, what the experts are saying now is that this is as bad as World War II. The last time we had something as bad as this was 80 years ago. Okay, so how long did World War II last? It lasted 6 years. How long is the coronavirus going to last? I don't know, right? But the thing is, whatever it is, when we come back to normal, when it's not going to be normal. This is going to be like 9/11, right? Remember after September 11th, how airport travel changed, how airport security changed. And today it's still the same. It's exactly, nothing has changed about airport security. Okay, so some things will never ever go back to normal, and those who can recognize from it can profit from it. Okay, so I don't know, like I said, I don't know how long this is going to last, but I want you to just accept that the next 12 months, okay, assume it's going to be like this, exactly like this. You know, you can't move from your house, you are in lockdown, you can't see your customers face to face, you can't make sales calls, you can't travel like you used to. Imagine how it's going to be like this for the next 12 months and accept it. Because the first thing you need to do is accept it, right? And when you accept it, if you're still angry, you're still frustrated, you're still blaming people, blaming circumstances, blaming things that are outside your control, this is going to be a problem because you're having this victim mentality, right? You're having this victim mentality. Stop feeling grumpy. Stop feeling entitled to getting back the way you want to get, okay? Now, mistake number 2. I'm very stressed right now. I'm very overwhelmed right now. You know, give me a break. Give me some space. Give me this. Give me that. Right. So people, this is the time where the highest, when any crisis happens, the biggest winners are people who sell alcohol, tobacco, people who sell illegal stuff, drugs, porn, anything. Right? Because people go towards their vices during this time. You know, even stuff like chocolates, you know. So if you're going on Netflix to get your therapy, if you're overeating the wrong kind of food, okay, to make you feel better, okay. If you're gaming videos, if you're spending too much time online, okay. If you're finding your relief in some other ways, it's perfectly fine, except that you need to recognize that you're doing it. Okay, if you don't recognize you're doing it, that's the first thing you need to do, because that's your first step to say, oh, okay, I recognize it. And after you recognize it, you can manage it, you can control it. Okay, so right now, everyone around you is doing the regular things, panicking, talking about this, talking about that. Okay, now if you want to be successful, if you want to double your sales or more during this crisis, okay, you need to stop doing what everyone else is doing, stop doing what your competitors are doing, and start doing the stuff that you know will make a huge difference 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now. Okay, so now we're going to mistake number 3. the world is dealing with a deadly new virus, okay? No, you are fighting for your own survival of yourself, your family, your company, not just for your health, but also for your business, right? So we are now in a recession, okay? This is official, it's global. And I am dialing this from Malaysia. Now, I also have a problem as well, because I'm based out of Singapore and I'm stuck here in Malaysia now because while I was in Malaysia, the government did this lockdown and I just couldn't get out and couldn't get back to Singapore, right? So I'm here stuck in Malaysia. And in Malaysia, they did the lockdown. They did the lockdown about 10 days ago or so, right? Less than 10 days ago. Now, people are saying that companies cannot survive until May. So they do a lockdown in March, right? Come April, and in May, companies are already collapsing, right? Because of this and that they don't have the support structure. So where are you now? And what you do now is super duper important in terms of ensuring the survival of your company. Okay, now, mistake number 4. We have cut our costs because now, you know, it's tough times. We've cut our costs. The customers are ignoring us. And this may or may not be true for some of you, okay? For some of you, the worst thing you can do now is to cut costs. And I'll cover this later, right? I'll cover this later. Now is the time for you to double down on your business. You know, now is the time for you to actually invest in cheap advertising, you know, stuff like that. But we'll cover that later. Okay, mistake number 5, okay? I don't want to talk to customers right now. You know why? Because, you know, the customers are so stressed and stuff like that. At the end of the day, most of your sales reps are in fear, or if you're in sales, you are actually fearful to talk to your customer because they will get angry with you. They might scold you. They will say, "What are you doing trying to sell me at this time when I am so stressed and I'm so busy? You know, and you're scared you might ruin the relationship." So you're saying, "Okay, I'm gonna be time out. You know, there's too much of noise about coronavirus and this COVID-19. I'm just gonna give it a break and be silent." Mistake. Don't do that. Okay. You need to still focus on sales. Okay. Sales brings in the money, right? It allows you to live and fight another day. So you need sales, but the right kind of sales. Okay. Sales is a dirty word for a lot of people. They don't like it. Okay. To me, sales is a great thing because it's about how I add value. Is how I add value to the customer. So sales is fine as long as you are adding value to the customer. And I will cover that in the second part as well. Okay. Now, mistake number 6. Okay. I'm keeping myself fully up to date with the latest COVID-19. Okay. A lot of us are doing this. And we're trying to find out what's going on. We're getting alerts and checking our phone, you know, through having the phone beside our bed when we sleep, you know, just in case we miss something, right? Fear of missing out. Mistake. Okay, this is what happens when you are in a stress situation. You are in consumption mode. Okay, you're in overconsumption mode, and you don't do the normal things where you don't contemplate, you don't think about things, you do not contribute much, you're just consuming. And most of the world today is in consumption mode. Okay, this is very bad, but anyway, it's good if you can recognize this and do something about it, right? You need to detox your thinking right now, because if you look at the news, you look at the social media, you follow the groups, if you're on the chats here, there, everywhere, right? It's all mostly negative stuff. 98% of it is negative stuff, okay? And talking about, you know, stuff, what's going to happen, what might not happen. A lot of it is also fake news, right? A lot of fake news, and then people correcting, and then people getting angry. They're angry with so many people except themselves, of course. You know, I'm angry with everyone except myself, right? So you need to start, you know, I just want to share with you, right, that you can never do your best work. You can never create your best outcomes by being in a position of fear, scarcity mentality, and thinking and worrying about where you're going to get your next thing, right? So it's very, very, very important to understand that you need to take care of number one, which is yourself, right? Only when you take care of yourself, you will be able to, and that starts with your thinking, and I'll cover that as well in part 2 later, okay? So, okay. Mistake number 7, and this is the final one before we move ahead, okay? You're working, you recognize everything, you recognize that it's an opportunity, and you know you need to work hard, and you're working really hard in your business. But the thing is, you're doing the same old things as before. You're just trying to run faster, right? Doing the same old things. Now, I have to share with you, right? This is very, very, very important, that this coronavirus crisis, COVID, has completely changed the game. Whenever people are in crisis mode, right, the rules, the normal rules, don't allow you to succeed anymore. In fact, if you play the normal rules, you get left behind. Okay, so let me just share with you. Imagine like you have built your business, right? You have built your startup, you have built your business on playing golf, right? So what's golf about? You know, the ball is not moving, the ball is stationary. You can plan before your shot, you can think about your shot, and then when you're ready, you take your shot, right? And sometimes there's also handicap, you know, so that means it levels the playing field, right? It allows you to play with stronger players because there's a protection type of setup in place, okay? Now, right now, we're not playing golf anymore. We're playing ice hockey, okay? All of a sudden, from the green fields of the golf course, you are now on slippery ice, trying to balance yourself on skates, and the ball is not stationary. It's actually a moving target, and it's coming towards you fast. Are you going to hit it, or are you going to miss it, right? This is the biggest analogy, the biggest difference that I can share with you, okay? So now you recognize that you're a new game, right? And panic is pushing you to move faster and faster on your skates, right? But you're struggling. Why are you struggling? Because everything you've learned so far, right, is about how to play a better game of golf, right? So what worked before the coronavirus hit us will not necessarily work now. That's the first thing. So the question, to take the analogy further, right? How are we going to win at ice hockey? Well, the first thing is look at who's playing ice hockey out there, and look at the masters of ice hockey and see what they're doing. All right. So here, this is Wayne Gretzky. He is the absolute world champion, the greatest ice hockey player that's ever existed. Okay, and his quote is this: "I skate to where the puck is going, not where it has been." And this is super important. What does that mean to us, right? What does that mean to us? It means that we need to be able to now understand what is this new type of customer that that may be available to us. What are the new customer needs that the old customers want? Okay, and what is the new kind of messaging that we need to change our messaging to attract those customers, right? So that is part one. And now I'm going to come to part two. Okay, so part two is where you will need to look at, if you've got your workbooks ready, now's the time to open them up. Okay, if you don't have it, sorry,
Indran, this is Tarek. I'm just going to take this opportunity to launch a poll real quick for the people here. So just everyone here, thanks for joining to this webinar. Before we jump into the second part and to open your Startup Survival Action Plan, we have just a few questions as we want to get a gauge and understand where are your challenges today and what kind of webinars you'd like to see. Throughout the Flat 6 Labs network, we'll try and bring in experts like Indran, CEOs, CFOs, and so please go ahead and just give us a quick thoughts on what you would like to see and what are your challenges, so we can cater more webinars for you. So we'll leave that just a few seconds if you don't mind, Indran. I already have, I'm getting 8 to 10.
Great.
you can go on ahead and explaining maybe the survival action plan.
Yeah. Okay. So the action plan is divided into multiple parts. I don't have a lot of time, so I can't go it in detail. But I do have. I will cover this in much detail with other webinars along these lines. And I also have a Facebook group that I will give you access to. Normally, I do not give access to non-paying people. It's only for my private clients. But because of the coronavirus crisis, I'm opening up my paid premium content to people who are suffering, who want to increase their sales, who want to understand the strategies to actually do that. And I'm also doing group coaching calls on Fridays. So if you join the Facebook group, which the details I'll give you later, you can also participate in the coaching calls. And if you're in the hot seat, then you can actually specifically talk about your problem, and we can try to resolve it in that particular situation. Okay, so let me go now to. So right now, for some of you, we all have different stages of distress that we are in. Okay, for some of you, that your boat is rocking. For some of you, the boat is already capsizing, right? And now you need to abandon ship, and you need now to think about, like, what are you going to take in your lifeboat? Like, what are the things can you carry in your lifeboat? Like, who are the members of your team that you're going to bring with you on your lifeboat? Because you can't bring everyone. Everyone is not going to fit. So these are really difficult questions for these companies that are facing, even right now, like who to let go. How are we going to let go? How can we be seen to be fair? These are very, very difficult questions, and I'm not here to tell you it's easy, okay? But what I want you to do is, if you're not yet in that situation, I want you to start forcing yourself to thinking about these what-if scenarios, to think about, if your sales drops by 50% next month, what are you going to do? If it drops by 80% next month, what are you going to do? What if you have zero sales starting tomorrow? What are you going to do? How long can you survive if you got zero sales starting tomorrow, right? So these are very, very tough, difficult questions, but you need to ask them, and you need to answer them, okay? So the question is to do a reality check. And the reality check is basically a very simple exercise that I do with my students, and it's called the stop, start, continue, okay? And it's very simple. Basically, you ask yourself, and if you've got the workbook, you can actually write it down. But if you don't have the workbook, it's also fine. You can just take a piece of paper and quickly think up one of the things you need to stop doing immediately, right? I need to stop immediately all these things because it is not helping the situation right now, okay? So that's the first thing that you need to do, okay? Once you're done with that, right? Once you're done with that, then you go to the next one, which is, what do you need to actually start doing? Okay, what do you need to be more? Do you need to be more in contact? Have you been too silent all this while, thinking about yourself and just what's going on inside your company? What about the outside your company? What about your customers? What about your other stakeholders, your suppliers, your vendors, right? What about them? How are you working with them? Because let me tell you something, yeah? This is really, really key. When this crisis is over, because this crisis is going to be over, okay? When this coronavirus crisis is over, and then you go back to your supplier, and then you go back to your customer, right? And then you go back to all these people. After all this while being silent, or they'll be wondering in their heads, like, hey, where were you when I needed you? Like, where were you when I was in trouble, right? So what you do now is super duper important, because people will remember. People remember these things. Think about it yourself, right? You definitely remember when you were down, who helped you, right? You remember who helped you when you were down. So the same way, right? People are going to remember what you do. Customers are going to remember how you added value in their lives. They're going to remember a lot of things, okay? And the next one is continue. So if you're doing something that's good, that's beneficial, do that. If you think you want to do more along those lines and continue those things, great. But keep doing that. Keep putting yourself in a situation where you are not in a panic crisis mode. Okay, so that's the first part of the workbook. Now we move to the next part of the workbook called the certainty matrix. Okay, the certainty matrix has got 3 columns. Okay, we'll go to column number 1. Okay, column number 1. Before I go to that, right? I'm sure you've seen like this panic buying. I don't know whether you have panic buying wherever you are now, but I've seen a lot of panic buying, and you know, I want to bring one example that's really interesting. Okay, because there was a situation where there was a panic buying for toilet paper. Okay, now toilet paper is a non-essential, not connected to coronavirus at all. If it's panic buying and people are fighting in the supermarket for a hand sanitizer or a face mask, or they're fighting for something related to coronavirus, you can understand. But why are they fighting for toilet paper? Okay, so let me give you the psychological example about that. And this will help you to understand your customers better. Okay, now our brain is divided into 3 parts. Okay, the primitive brain called the reptilian brain, which is the dinosaur. Then you've got the limbic brain, which is the monkey brain, the social brain. Okay, then you've got the neocortex, the thinking brain. Most of us, 85% of our decisions come from these two parts of the brain. We don't realize it. We think we make a logical decision, but really it's derived by the emotions. Okay, so now for right now, everyone is in the dinosaur mode, so to speak, right? The dinosaur is about your safety, your security. You want to be safe, you want to be secure. So it's about control, it's about territory. So, you know, these people, they feel they cannot control things around their lives, but the one thing they can control is buying toilet paper, because they cannot control even buying fish and meat and milk, because they go bad. Like toilet paper is something that does not go bad, it's non-perishable. And that's why they want to buy a lot of it, because they have to feel a sense of control. So when you see this irrational behavior, there's a lot of stuff on social media where people laugh and stuff like that, right? I also laugh, but at the same time, I try to understand what is going on in these people's heads. And more importantly, understand how you can actually apply it to your customer situation. Okay, so please now take some time to write the things that are out of your control, right? The things that you feel are out of your control. For example, I cannot control what the government does. I cannot control the length of this virus problem. I cannot control the recession. Okay, a lot of things what are the things that are making me feel powerless, right? So write that all down, the things, you know, like I said, I'm really rushing through this. After this call, maybe through the week, or when you find some time at the weekend, go through this workbook again, right? Write it down properly and understand the things that are really out of your control, because if you now need to feel a sense of certainty. If you do not feel a sense of certainty, you will never be able to move forward, right? Because your reptilian brain, the dinosaur part of your brain, will not allow you to do anything else, because you will always be in that fear and panic mode. So you need to vomit out. You need to bring out all the thing and rationalize it. Okay, so what's out of your control? Write it down, and then go to the next box, which is what I can control. Okay, so the things that are fully in your control. Okay, you can control how you think, you can control how you feel, you can control how you want to appear to other people, right? You can control the things that you do to protect your health and protect your family and protect life around you, right? You can absolutely control the number of customers that you're trying to connect with, right? That's all in your power, right? And you can control your costs. So all these things is in your control. There are actually a lot of things that you can control. Although it looks like this whole situation is horrible, you will start to see that, hey, hang on a minute, I can control quite a few of these things, and that start giving you some sense of certainty, okay? And then you move to the next one. So you look at the stuff that's out of your control, right? And then you try to, you see the stuff that's out of my control, and then you say like, okay, it may be out of my control, but what can I influence, right? For example, my investors, right? Like how am I going to get my next round of funds, or how am I going to raise? It's a horrible market right now. The investors just told me this, right? That they are having problems themselves. They're not investing anymore. Like, but how can I influence? How can I influence new sources of cash? How can I look at new ways, right? New models, right? So these are some of the things. And then
I'm on it.
How can I speak to my supplier, right? How can I speak to my supplier? How can I get a new, what can I influence, right? I can influence my customers. I can influence my team. I can influence my stakeholders. I can actually do quite a lot of stuff. So doing this will put everything in black and white on paper in front of you. And then you say like, oh my God, you know what? I've been panicking for nothing. I've been worrying for nothing. Okay. So that's the idea of the certainty matrix where you will go. Now let's move to the next one. Okay. Which is, to understand. So for example, now where you're sitting right now, you smell smoke and then you see a fire and you start to panic, right? Like how fast can you run out of this burning building, right? That's the question, right? Like how fast can I run? But you know, there's somebody just as fast as you are running out, people are running out of burning buildings. There are people that are running just as quickly into burning buildings. Who are they, right? These people are the firefighters. And why do the firefighters run into burning buildings? Well, it's they're getting paid, I guess. It's they get money to do it, right? But if I paid you what the firefighter earns, are you going to run into a burning building? No. Why? Because the firefighters have got something different. They've got the skills, they've got the training, they can understand the risk. They've been trained in many scenarios like this to actually go into crisis situations, right? So I actually learned a lot when I was doing crisis training for CEOs in Australia. My training partner was ex-Special Forces, and he used to train like the Navy SEALs, the elite bodyguards to presidents and stuff like that, right? I learned a lot about how these people think, and I created a model around that. And basically, it's around 4 things, right? It's around their attitudes, which is their mindset and their heart set, and their actions, which is the skill set and the tool set, which are basically I'm going to cover, but I won't cover in detail because again, we have no time right now, and this is a longer session. But in my Facebook group, I may do another webinar, right? So you can follow me up on that. Okay, so I won't cover this, but just want to say that the heart set here is a super important thing. Okay, the heart set is very, very, very important to you don't realize it because the heart set is actually your passion, right? It's your why. So today, when you want to make the changes, you're having all these problems in your business right now, right? And you're difficult to be motivated. You find it difficult. It's just problem after problem after problem. And that's when you need to go back to your heart set, which is your why, right? Why did you start that feeling in your heart? Like, why did you start the business in the first place, right? Go back to your core. Like, why did you start the business in the first place? And how is that applicable to today? You know, chances are you started the business to help people, to help your customers, to solve a problem. Well, today they're having problems, but it's a new set of problems. So how are you going to help them with that new set of problems? Okay. So now we go to the marketing pillars. Okay. And so marketing pillars is about your cash. Okay. One of them is about the money that you have right now to spend. Okay. So for the marketing pillars, how much of money you have to spend is very important. You need to know your numbers. Okay. You need to know your numbers. You need to know your burn rate, your new burn rate, right? And you need to know your you need to know, like, if you're going to be able to invest in your growth. So some of you, your sales are not so affected. You're not, maybe not in travel, you're not in retail, you're not in food, you're in a different business that's not so affected, right? So then, can you then now use this to grow your business? Because advertising is really cheap now, right? So, it's that kind of stuff that you need to look at how much money you actually have right now, okay? So the next one, so this is one example that I shared in the Facebook group. Google is offering, there's a lot of free stuff being offered right now. How can you take advantage of it, right? So the next one that I want to talk about is your new product market fit. I don't know whether you know, I'm sure a lot of you have played Monopoly. Monopoly was created in 1935 at the height of the Great Depression, right? It's again, financial crisis, the Great Depression. And they have sold now, today, they have sold 250 million sets, and over 1 billion people have actually played Monopoly, right? But at that time, it was a solution to people who had no money and had to stay at home. Like today, you've got lots of stuff to stay at home. But in 1935, they were really bored sitting in the house, and they had no money to go out and do anything, right? So Monopoly became really caught on fire because it was very engaging. And another reason why Monopoly was so great is that people had no money at that time, and the Monopoly game made them feel like they were owning property, made them hold money, made them buy property, made them fantasize about being successful and being rich and famous and owning amazing stuff, right? So this is the kind of thing, a clue that you need to look at, right? What is your new business model going to look like? Because the old business model, please don't play golf right now, okay? This is ice hockey. You need to change your business model. So you need to see like where your competitors are doing a poor job, what your customers want, what the customers say they want, but what the customers also, what they really need that they're not saying that they want, right? And this is the kind of stuff that you need to write, right? So we'll enjoy, you need to look at the outcomes of using your product, your service, the outcomes that the customers will enjoy, the buyers. And then once you've done your model, you need to go back, you need to go to them, but be careful to go to them in the right way, the right message. See, what's happening right now is people are very, 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 they're consuming a lot, but they are very panicked and they're very fierce. So they have a lot of what is called cognitive overload, meaning that if you're going to send a message, you need to make it very, very simple, all right? Very, very simple. So if you do not make a simple message very clear and simple, your customers will not get it. They will not want to read it because it is not relevant. It is not relevant in this time. They have very short, very ultra short attention spans right now, okay? They have ultra short attention spans unless you're selling a face mask or you're selling the cure for coronavirus or you're selling a ventilator and they are, they've got a family member who's a difficulty breathing because of the virus and you're selling a ventilator. Okay, then it's fine. You can do your old method of marketing, right? But if you're not benefiting, if you're selling, if you're in a restaurant, if you are, doing all this other stuff, you're selling software, you're selling an app, right? That helps them to be more productive. All this kind of stuff. This kind of stuff will be a problem right now if you do not keep things very, very simple and clear for them. Okay, now we come to the second last part, which is the sales recovery. So at the end of the day, you guys have lost sales right now. You've lost sales. How are you going to recover the sales? Okay, so I'm just going to share with you a very simple thing. Okay, so to make a sale, you need three things to happen. You need yourself, obviously. You need the customer. You need the product, right? So the three things need to come together, right? So like number one, okay, the number one part here is the connection, okay? The connection that you have with the customer. So does the customer trust you? Does the customer, are you able to connect well with the customer? So in this case, in particular, a wrong strategy, a dangerous strategy would be trying to connect with new customers, because new customers have no time for you. Okay, they've got enough problems, and they're because of the dinosaur brain that they're having right now, they have a very low trust on everything. Okay, so it's very, very hard for you to get new customers, right? So, but you can go back to your existing customers. You can go back to your database. If you have a marketing funnel, if you've got a sales funnel right now, now's the time to go back, and I'll show you how to go back, okay? Then look at number 2. The number 2 is the comprehension. So for the customer to buy the product, they need to understand the product. So I remember I told you, cognitive load. Do not make things complicated. So for example, if you have 10 products before on your list, cut down the 10 products just to 2, and just go back to your customers now and say, look, I got this, okay? So for example, if you're a restaurant and you had like 25 items on the menu, and now nobody can come to your restaurant because you are not able to, you cannot, they can't come to your restaurant, but you can have a rider service where you're going to deliver to their house. Just have to say, do you guys want pizza or pasta? That's it. Don't give them like 64 choices because your menu has 64 choices, right? People will have this analysis of paralysis. They won't be able to decide. Make it very, very simple. 2, maximum 3 choices, and that's it, right? So that's it. How they understand your product, okay? Your product, make it very simple and make it fit their needs in a very, very good way. So if you know that there's a restriction of travel and you know that whatever, then you can play with the timing as well to make sure, because now they're having a timing issue, right? And finally, the third one, which is the very, very most important thing, is actually number 3, which is the confidence that you have in your own product. See, at the end of the day, the customer doesn't buy your product or service, okay? Because when they sign the agreement, when they pay, take out the credit cards and pay, chances are they haven't really experienced the product yet. They have no idea whether that product is going to be good or bad, okay? So when they take out the credit card to pay, when they sign on the dotted line for the service that they're signing for a contract for 1 year, what are they really buying at the end of the day, okay? They are buying on the hope, H-O-P-E, on the hope that you will deliver, okay? And the best way to give them hope is your confidence in the product. Okay. Whenever you've missed a sale, whenever you have looked at a sale, go back and look at the sale that you've lost. At some point, maybe you were not so confident in that product. Anyway, I can't really cover this too much. We're running out of time, but I have this. I have a module exactly on this in the Facebook group. I will make it available. I will make it available to the group, the stuff from my paid training. Okay, like how you can actually increase your confidence in your product. There are specific techniques for that. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is you need to recognize the matrix, and right now your customers are. If you look at your database, right, you'll see a box with 4 boxes inside. Okay, most people are only going to spend money. Most of your customers, right, are only going to spend money in the red zone. That's it. Okay, that's it. If it's urgent and it's important. Otherwise, they're not going to spend money. They're going to save the money, or they're going to just not even going to consider your product or service, right? So the question is, right now, if you look at your database, okay, your database right now has got people like this, okay? So your objective right now is to focus not on the red zone, but focus on the blue ocean, right? The blue ocean of creating new value propositions because the situation has changed right now, okay? So you create a new value proposition to make things urgent, okay? To tie in with certain events that are happening right now, to tie in with certain situations that are happening right now. You can create new value propositions, okay? The second one is make things that are not important to try to enhance their importance, again, by your messaging strategies, and try to make it more relevant to the situation that your buyers are facing right now. So this is your strategy where you can, this is basically 40% here and 40% here, okay? So you've been focusing on just 10% of your sales, right? You can actually get 80% if you do it well, right? Okay, so just go through in terms of the connection, the comprehension, right? And the confidence, like what can you do? Like what can you do? And like I said, I will cover this in more webinars and also more recorded video lessons that I'll put in the Facebook group. Okay, so now the next 30, 60 or 90 days, but let's just say the next 30 days, right? So the next 30 days, right? Come up with an action plan. Now, if you have done everything that in the previous part of the workbook, okay, you should be able now to come up with a very, very specific action plan with KPIs, with new KPIs. The old KPIs don't work anymore. So new KPIs and what you should be doing and what your team should be doing, right? This is absolutely critical. So I'm going to leave you with this. Be that best salesperson that you always wish you could buy anything from, right? That individual that you always felt so close and comfortable with. That is that caring person. Be that salesperson. Okay, now is not the time to be selling. It's a time to be serving. Okay, so and by your service, the sales will come. Okay, this is the information about my Facebook marketing group. You can just type COVID marketing and you can get into the group, and you can get it's a private closed group, but I'll put some questions so I'll know who is coming from where, because I'm doing these webinars in other countries and through other people as well. But yes, come back, put your application to join, and then I'll take it from there. Okay. Now is your time to start writing down the questions. Okay, the questions that you have, and while waiting for the questions that you have, I'm going to answer the first question that Tariq has already asked me, which is, what are the rest of the startups doing in the world? Okay, so let me just share with you what's going on. Okay, so travel has been badly hit. Okay, now AirAsia is a company that they are on the best of times. Any airline business on the best of times, they're bleeding money because you've got to keep these planes in the air. The airplane maintenance is very expensive. So what AirAsia did immediately was all the countries that they had the problems with, which was Korea, China at that time. Yeah, at the time when they launched it at end February and early March. These countries were restricting entry, right? And AirAsia was still flying. Today, AirAsia is not flying. They've grounded all the flights, right? But at that time, AirAsia was still flying. So what they did was they said, let us grab as much cash as we can. So they gave this unlimited pass, unlimited travel for 1 year. Okay, no other airline did that. No other airline did that. All the other airlines, what they did was they reduced they were too busy managing cancellations. There were so many cancellations from flights and people want their refunds. They were too busy managing all of that. No one really said, hey, how can we increase our cash right now? Because we need cash, otherwise we're going to die. So AirAsia did that. They got like 10 million US, right? They got 10 million US in cash immediately within 1 week by doing this strategy. Okay, so that's one. There's another one wherein for Gojek. So Gojek is also having a lot of problems. Gojek is quite different in a way, because how it is for Gojek. Gojek is a ride. It's like an Uber, right? It's like an Uber for Indonesia, and but on bikes for the most part. They also have cars, but for most part it's just motorbikes. And Indonesia, they've got like 260 million people, and Gojek is on every island, okay, in Indonesia. And so in Indonesia, because they've had a movement control, people are not allowed to go out of their houses. So the Gojek people, they've lost a lot of money, a lot of income, but they still have to work because they're still doing deliveries of food and stuff like that, right? So what the management did was they created a fund, 100 billion rupiah, which is quite a lot of money, right? And they created it from all the senior managers, the founders, and all the senior management team of Gojek. They took a pay cut, a yearly pay cut of of 25%. So everyone gave 25% of their annual salary into the fund, and the rest of the employees also started contributing to the fund to help the riders, to help the drivers, not the riders, to help the drivers. And then they asked the riders to actually give bigger tips. Please give bigger tips, because these drivers, we need to keep them on the road. They've got families to feed, and we don't want them to get other jobs, and then there will be a big problem for Gojek, because they won't have enough enough drivers. Okay. So this is another example for that. Some of the startups, they're actually sending their salespeople to go and work on customer service, because they want to keep their customer service very, very, very good this time. They don't want to have problems customer service, right? So some of them are actually hiring. They've gone into hiring mode, right? So they keep their burn rate consistent, but they're putting all the additional funds into working on their product, especially working on their product that will be relevant to the crisis. So I've covered this. Okay, so here's one example of someone who sent me an email, right? And this is how a good example of outreach, right? So where you actually say, hey, sorry, I'm really sorry that I didn't speak to you earlier, but this has been a problem. Now, I don't want to just come in and tell you that everything's going to be okay. I want to help you. Here, I'm going to give you something for free, right? And this is how you can really, really help this. So if you receive this email right now from if you're a customer and your supplier gave you this, right? How would you feel, right? So here's another one, an example from HSBC Bank in Australia. They send this to all their customers, and so here they're saying, hey, you know what? You don't have to pay. What you don't have to pay, right? What's going to be available? What's not going to be available, right? And really keeping us up to date. So this is I have several bank accounts, okay, in Singapore, in Australia, and Malaysia. Okay, so this is from Australia. This is from Singapore. Okay, so from Singapore, they are trying to teach you already. They go one step ahead. They're trying to say, hey, you know what? Be careful about COVID-19. There are scams and this and that, right? So, and then I have a bank here in Malaysia. It's one of the biggest banks. They have not said anything, right? They've not sent me any message, any email, nothing. Okay, so now I look at my HSBC in Australia, I look at my OCBC in Singapore, and I can compare. I can think. Okay, the truth probably is that this bank they're so busy with their firefighting, or they're so busy handling stuff. They got no time to focus on this. Okay, so but what is the impression that it's giving to the customer, right? My bank doesn't care about me, right? My bank is not giving me any rebates during this time. My bank, I'm going to change. I can find a new customer. So when people are very emotional, people are down, this is the most important point. Okay, now I see some questions coming up. Let me try to answer them, okay? The first question is, what's the best channel to use to contact customers, considering we are unable to move, okay? Right. So here is where I will give you an example about channels and about unnecessary products. I'll take it together, right? When today it's online, right? If you cannot do online, then you have to look at some other things that you can do. Okay, so for some businesses, it is really a horrible time, meaning that you absolutely cannot everywhere turn left, turn right, go up, go down, everything, you're stuck, you can't move. Okay, so and later I will play a video. Gary Vee on his live call, there was this restaurant. They are old school restaurant. They've been open for 63 years, family business. Okay, the children, the mother, the father live above the restaurant. This is in the US. Okay, they live above the restaurant, and they go downstairs and they serve their customers. Now, because of that, the movement control, the lockdown, and all this stay-at-home thing, customers come to the restaurant anymore, right? So, so I'm going to share that with you shortly. But okay, okay. So what channels, right? So unnecessary product. So unnecessary product. I do training right now. That's my biggest source of income. Okay, I do training around the world. I speak on stage. Everything is cancelled. Everything is postponed. Everything is postponed until further notice. Right? My income has plummeted. Right? So what do I do? Okay, so the one thing that I used to do when I used to do my training was after a 2-day program or 3-day program, I used to have an online learning activity. Like just I used to throw it in for the customers for free, because customers don't really care about online. You know, they want the face-to-face, right? So my customers are very big brands, right? So they're quite traditional. They've tried e-learning before and it didn't work for them. So for me, right now, my free throwaway product has become my main product now, right? So your unnecessary product, maybe look at other products that were not working in the past, and maybe it's time to renew those products. Okay, so would it be a good idea if some companies launch their products during this crisis? But before that, let me just take the next. I just want to play this video if I can.
I'll tell you the number one thing that I would do. I would try to put out on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, all of them. You have to sign up for all of them, and I know you get it, and you're on 2 of them now, and I get it's not natural. I believe in this so much. I think you need to do story time. I mean, your mom probably has fucking some real crazy shit. You guys have a ton of crazy shit because you're like living above the restaurant. I think you need to put out 100 videos of different stories about the restaurant and post them locally. I genuinely believe that it will lead to an increase in takeout during now, and it will build even more brand. Do you know how much good business things and good life things happen to me because people know I was born in Belarus, because they know I sold lemonade as a kid, because they know I sold baseball cards? Stories, the Bible, movies. It's all about stories. And I think while we're all confined right now, everybody needs to go into hardcore story time. You have a real blessing. You guys have real fucking stories. I literally think you take a fucking phone. First of all, you'll be happy that you recorded your mom telling 25 stories one day anyway. You know what I mean? I think it's story time for you.
Okay, so it's important. I want to talk about stories, right? I think stories is very, very important. And for those of you who cannot do anything, right? Now is your time to go down and try to create stories for the business, okay? Stop sharing. Okay. So okay, can everyone see me? I've finished the presentation. Okay, right. Now there are more questions here. So would it be a good idea if some companies launch their product during this crisis? Yes, it's a good idea, provided that you are really able to add value. It depends on your timing, right? It depends on how you tweak it. Now, if you've got this great product that you worked all this while and now you realize that it is not right for the market, then don't launch it now, because this is the wrong time. Postpone it. Right, and start to do something else. So I'll give you an example of another restaurant where they were selling. They are fine food restaurant. Okay, they are fine food restaurant, and so they sell really the best cuts of beef and veal, and like fine dining restaurant, right? And they've got like 100 things on the menu. So what would you do if you are a restaurant like this, right? Now in this time, so the first thing is people don't have much money to spend. So the first instinct will be, I should reduce my prices, right? I should reduce my prices and I should continue business. But that's a mistake to do. Okay, why is that a mistake? Because you have built your brand with a certain association of price. Okay, now when you reduce your price, when you give a discount, right, people will get the wrong idea, and later after the crisis as well, it's very hard for you to increase the price because they got in their head that that's the value of that product, right? So what did the fine dining restaurant do? What they did was they created a brand new product, right? They are now selling burgers, right? Out of the same kitchen, different type of food that they're so the same production run, the same chefs, the same everything, but they're selling burgers at very reasonable prices, which they deliver to, which doesn't touch their menu. Okay, so these are some of the things that you can look at. Okay, next question. Is it relevant to continue prospecting new clients in the travel and expense industry? Okay, it really depends, right? Because right now, I don't know what solution you have. Look at like AirAsia. They are. I would say that if you are trying to sell to clients who don't want to hear your message, for example, now I can't travel, right? Then I'm not interested in your message. So then don't try to sell them, right? Don't try to sell them. Use this time to, number one, like the guys from Airbnb, right? They during the elections time, they started making cereal boxes, right, with the presidents on them, because they knew it was time. They were not focusing on Airbnb. They wanted to raise more money, and so during certain times, look at the opportunity and focus on that instead, right? So the key thing is you guys are entrepreneurs, so you are always full of great ideas. You're very resourceful. So use that resourceful now, but don't be inflexible. Don't be frightened to try new things right now. If you know that it is something that's relevant to your market. The best thing you can do is actually just talk to your customers, right? Call your 3, 5, 10 best customers and say, hey, what are you? How's it going, guys? What's happening with you? You know, how can I serve you right now? What can I help you? I know you're in the you know, they're in the travel industry. They are fearful. So talk to them. Like what could benefit you now, right? And maybe after talking to 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, something will click. You know, something will happen to you, and some idea might come to your head and say, hey, hang on a minute, and you will be able to connect the dots and maybe create a brand new product or come up with an easier thing, or like AirAsia, right? How they did the Travel Unlimited for 1 year. Now, the Travel Unlimited for 1 year sounds attractive, but they have a lot of restrictions in there. Peak hours, you can't travel. It's only one-way travel out of Kuala Lumpur, but return, you still have to pay baggage and stuff. You know, so AirAsia, you still can create something that is very attractive, but at the same time, you are not losing money because of it. Okay, next question. Couldn't find the Facebook group. Can you please share the link? COVID marketing. If you just Google COVID marketing, let me see whether I can find the link, and I'll share the link, and I'll be sure to get Tariq to share the link as well, right after the call. Suppliers can't provide the material. Oh, okay, fine. Okay, understood. Yeah, so there are many situations right now where your hands are really tied, okay? Because in this case, like, you know, if you're selling something and in China, your production is down and everywhere else, right? I fully understand that. So what can you do, right? So the key now is to create content to start building some better relationships. So like one of them was like, I'm a barber. I think it was one of the groups I was looking at. And you know, this guy is a barber, right? And because he cuts hair and he now can't get any business. So like, what can I do, right? And so that people were like responding, okay, you can go online, you can start creating an ebook or like a course to teach people how to cut their own hair, or you can actually make appointments and go to people's houses instead of people coming to you. You know, there are all these different things, right? So I understand that your suppliers cannot help you now, but if you can start engaging with them, if you can start helping them in some way, start serving them, right? And you can only do that once yourself, you are covered and you're secure. That's when you go. Because remember, people buy confidence. People are buying your confidence right now. They will spend a lot of money if they feel that you can give them that security and confidence. So how can you build that security and confidence into your product? Okay. I will share the URL of the Facebook after this call. Okay. Would a recording? Yes, a recording will be available. Can we sell services that are to be delivered at early recovery stage of COVID while we are just a startup and well known by the future customers? I'm not very clear what you're asking, but from what I understand, it says that you're just a startup and you are wanting to sell services that are to be delivered at the early recovery stage of COVID. So for example, maybe you can just share what industry you're in so I'll be able to help you better. This is from Wafe. Okay. I got another question. Do you think that the behavior of consumers in food will change to more digital? Yes, I think absolutely so. So this work from home movement, take out movement will be a long-term thing because people will get used to it, right? It's all about habits. And once people are used to those habits, they will start to, in the old days, we didn't have so much of deliveries, but now as deliveries become more, people get used to it. Even working from home, at the beginning, people will be feeling very uneasy and uncomfortable because their work, they are so used to working in a team in the office, okay? And all of a sudden, that whole thing has been, pulled, the rug has been pulled out from under them. But after a while, they'll actually see like, hey, hang on a minute, I actually kind of like working from home now because I thought I needed my team, but you know what? Every day, if I'm able to do video conferencing in the morning for 15 minutes, and then I have the whole day free. I don't have to travel anymore and go through the horrible traffic up and down, and I'm able to be more comfortable and more relaxed. And so there will be a huge shift as people start getting comfortable in that kind of lifestyle, right? Okay. Okay, I think I've kind of, is there a culture difference between doing sales between Europe and Asia? Yes, absolutely, there's a cultural difference, right? 100% there's a cultural difference. I actually cover this in a great big way. There's a model that you will need to understand about the cultural differences in selling, right? In terms of what you say, how you do, a huge difference, right? So if you're a salesperson, you need to be very, very, very aware of this. Otherwise, what happens is you turn people off. You turn them off without you realizing it, right? And so you don't even get a chance to have a good to have a sale because they already got turned off at the beginning from a cultural mistake that you made. Okay, is there any e-marketing strategies we need to avoid during COVID-19? Okay, good question. One of the strategies you need to be very careful about is actually trying to profit from the situation or the misfortune of others. So when you buy, for example, if you're a supplier of face masks, right, and you're doing ads, and all of a sudden you have this e-marketing mail blast that goes out, and your mask prices are significantly higher than the rest. They will see that, people will see that as you trying to profit from the bad luck of other people, right? So that is pretty bad. The other thing about things that you have to be worried about is that when you are doing e-marketing strategies, you don't do the way that you used to do it, meaning that you need to look at the new channels where your customers are doing. Like, for example, even the existing channels that because of the noise level is so high, you need to think of new ways. So, for example, like on WhatsApp, right? On WhatsApp, instant messaging type of application on WhatsApp, everyone is sending a lot of videos. Everyone is sending a lot of text messages, crazy number of text messages and a lot of images. So you look and see like, okay, they're sending all these messages, but what is the least category of messages that they're not sending? It's voice messages. if you look right at the feed, very few people are sending voice messages. So that means that you have an opportunity to use voice messages because people will actually click on it because they don't see it so often, right? So you need to understand how to take advantage of the situation in a way that your competitors are not taking advantage, right? Okay. Okay, actually be not well known, art and culture. Okay. Let me go back to you. Let's see. Can we sell services that are to be delivered at early recovery stage while we're just a startup, not well known by future customers, right? Okay. Sorry, I didn't really understand that question. Okay, it's okay. You know what? Jump on the Facebook group. Let me just pull out the link now, and I will share the actual link in the chat. Meanwhile, if there are any other questions, please please write it down.
Hey, Indran, so we have a few questions here. So we shared with us the Facebook group. Is there any more questions before we eventually close the webinar? Indran, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. If you don't mind, everyone, I would like for us to just say thanks. If you can unmute, we'd be happy to give a clap and warm round of applause for everyone.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope it was helpful.
Really appreciate it, Indran. It was a great pleasure, and we hope to learn more on your Facebook group, and also the content that you share is very valuable and very useful. We really appreciate it here. Thanks for taking your time to share with us your insights.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Hope your business is successful, and hope that you can